So how are you gonna do this?
I was thinking about watching each episode one at a time, doing the reviews, and collating them all in one compilation for the first 8 that have already aired.
Do you think it will work?
Only one way to find out.
Season 1 ended on a hopeful note, with Ben about to finally leap home.
Yeah, we knew the series had been renewed, so that wasn't gonna happen.
The show's success led to the scientist's failure. Hey, Commander Fennec here, and I'm quite late to the party, but Quantum Leap is back for another season, and things feel pretty different.
For one thing, Ben's on his own without backup from the QL lab this time.
No Addison, no team, no nothing.
So he has to rely on his own knowledge, gut, and intuition to figure out how to get out of the mess he's in.
Lucky for him he's remembering more stuff, eh?
Pretty much, and this leads to a very good episode where we can see that he's able to handle himself and make the right calls, even without backup.
I really enjoyed seeing Ben lost and frustrated. After all, he fully expected to be back home by now.
I liked how this led to his many anachronistic gaffes and him having to annoyingly brush off puzzled expressions from the people around him.
I must admit, that was quite fun.
So, Ben's on his own, having to figure out how to survive in hostile territory.
Quite literally in this case.
Since he has no contact with the team back in the lab, and in order to make sure that we know the other characters are still with us this season, we get a series of flashbacks to the early days of the project's revival.
There weren't too many of them.
And it didn't take up too much time.
Very true. But they gave a good sense of camaraderie and were a nice way to introduce the team and what's at stake for any newcomers to the show.
Did you notice the wording of the intro is now much more similar to the one from the original show with Sam and Al?
Absolutely. Why try to mess with perfection, eh?
Well, they did so last season.
And now they've rightfully reversed course. This new intro is so much better compared to what it was during the first season.
And I bet as a lover of that original show, it tickled your nostalgia bone too.
Indeed it did.
So all in all, a good start to the new season.
Absolutely. And the ending delivered quite a surprise, showing the show isn't afraid to take risks and shake things up.
Complacency can be nice, but it can't get boring.
Exactly. And in this case, I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm awarding This Took Too Long 3.5 paws.
Ben and Teller, the amazing magical duo.
Nah, you're thinking about Penn and Teller.
Play on words. I like it.
Hey, Commander Fennec here, and we've got something of a switch here.
What do you mean?
This time, what's going on in the lab is more interesting than what's happening in the past.
It's true that for a time, during the first season, getting the balance right between the two time periods was a bit of a struggle.
As a fan of the original series, I always preferred Ben's predicament. But we've grown to like those other characters, so spending a little time getting the band back together in this one was fun.
Not just the original band though.
You're right, there's a new member of the team, Tom Westfall, who might become the new guy in charge. And it has some pretty stark consequences for our golden couple.
You mean Ben and Addison?
After 3 years, and having declared Ben dead a year ago, what's a girl to do?
Damn, that's gonna be awkward.
The actors really sell that moment, and it'll add an interesting dimension to the relationships going forward.
What about Magic?
Oh, he's there, but he's currently retired. Maybe the next episode will flesh out the roles more, and we'll see how much they've really changed.
No sign of Janice, though.
Al's daughter? I'd like to think we'll see her again. Her character had good potential, but she was merely a recurring character in the first season. Guess we'll find out soon enough.
But what about the mission?
As I said, it felt like the least important part of the story. In fact, it felt pretty bland, to be honest. It's almost like the writers focused so much on the dynamics in the lab,
along with a not-so-subtle hint that Ian did something somewhat dodgy to find Ben,
that less attention was spent on those scenes. Like, Ben becomes the negotiator between the bank robbers and the police way too easily. Same with getting the code to the vault, and a convenient escape route. There are some emotional scenes between a brother and sister, but it didn't really feel that impactful because not enough time was spent on that to really care about those characters.
Bit of a disappointment after the excellent previous episode.
There was something that bugged me though.
Which was?
Although they made changes to the original formula, like there's no waiting room where Ben's body is inhabited by the person he leapt into, it was clearly established in the first season that Ben takes on the physical attributes of the body he's in. Except here, he's in the body of a 70-year-old woman, yet he has the prowess of a 30-year-old male.
That did bug me too. I'd say this episode's average, which is why I'm awarding Ben and Teller 2 paws.
You know what a sci-fi time-traveling show needs more of?
Aliens.
Hey, Kevin and Fennec here. And with the team back together, it's like nothing's changed since season 1 now.
Aside from Addison having a new squeeze.
Yes, aside from that and the ongoing repercussions.
Pretty similar to what happened to Tom Hanks in Castaway.
Except in this case, no time elapsed for Ben. 1 minute he and Addison are super in love, the next she's with someone else. That's pretty jarring.
Also shows how monogamy for humans just isn't ideal in some circumstances.
Anyway,
It has been shown to be true, just ask the doc.
This is a particularly fascinating subject, actually.
sorry dog, but we're veering way too far off course here. This episode takes place in 1949 with Ben being a government operative investigating Little Green Man.
I like that it was a genuine department back in the day.
And I enjoyed that it wasn't clear until the end what exactly was going on.
To think poor Ben had to deal with this while trying to get over and move on from the love of his life.
There were a few things I liked about this episode, like using his team in the future to find out the results of the blood test Ben took just a few minutes before.
I like the grumpy grandfather with a heart of gold.
For myself, I had some quibbles.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, come on. For instance, how does Ben know Area 51 is available for purchase? And more puzzlingly, how did he know a professor in Princeton was about to open a physics program to female candidates? I mean, he's a scientist, not a history buff, and he only leapt initially to save Addison, so how does he know all this stuff?
Actually, does that mean that until then, in Ben's universe, Area 51 didn't exist?
I'm not sure the writers thought that far.
Although the simple answer would be yes.
But in this case, how did he know about Area 51 then?
Classic bootstrap paradox.
I'm actually wondering if the writers broke his relationship with Addison so he could get involved with other people.
I thought something might be going on with that waitress.
I thought this was a well-constructed story, teasing you to potential otherworldly solutions while never veering away from established reality. Well, maybe with a sprinkle of sci-fi. All while Ben deals with the emotional scars of having skipped 3 years of his friend and his fiance's life. I'm awarding Closure Encounters 3 paws.
How can you move on when time dealt you such a terrible hand?
Only in the most harrowing and heartbreaking way. Hey, Kevin and Fennec here. And I have a problem with this episode, just like I had with the one where he saved the space shuttle.
Which one was that?
That was the second episode of the first season.
Quantum Leap works best when the leaps focus on ordinary people, thereby preserving the illusion that this could be taking place in our own universe.
So when you save the space shuttle,
Or in this case, deal with a famous yet fictional major movie star, it shatters that illusion, which, for me at least, makes the story very difficult to relate to.
So this episode was a bit of a disappointment then.
It could have been, had they not focused so strongly on Ben and Addison's tragic relationship.
I liked how it was totally clouding Ben's judgment, making things so much worse, potentially jeopardizing the leap.
Except that direction was necessary for Ben to realize what he was doing and why. This led to a series of excellent scenes between him and Addison, brilliantly acted. They really got you there.
And what about what Tom pondered about?
That the Quantum Leap accelerator isn't faulty and is working totally as it should. So if you step into it, you essentially sacrifice yourself in order to help others, meaning you'll never come home?
It would explain why Sam never did.
And why Ben might never either.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory, but bear in mind it's postulated by Tom, Addison's new boyfriend. There's a bit of a bias there, even if it's subconscious.
Yeah, because he sounds like a nice guy.
Or he could be a bad guy in disguise, maybe connected to Ian's security breach perhaps.
Isn't that a bit far-fetched? As it's mentioned he's a widow, I'm thinking that's something Ben might fix at some point.
These are all potential breadcrumbs for the future.
Or red herrings.
But as of right now, Ben has to make sure Neil Russell gets to a talk show. Sounds easy, but there's a lot of emotional complications, which leads to so much heartache for him, and also for Ben. What happened to him between seasons is so gut-wrenchingly cruel. It's no wonder it's taking him so many leaps to process things, and his final decision is heartbreaking.
But so necessary if he's to move on.
So despite the fact this episode deals with a fictional movie star which I really didn't like, the story managed to win me over by the end, and I'm awarding the Lonely Hearts Club 3 paws.
This episode uses the classic trope of adding a flaw to an established character just to get the show to talk about an important issue.
At least the issue's worth talking about.
Yeah, but was it the right way to bring it up?
Hey, Fennec here, and Ben leaps into a young Korean kid just minutes before the alien riots begin. But what this episode is really about is magic.
We finally learn who he's been dating.
Which wasn't that surprising when you think about it.
We see him having to deal with his own trauma of having experienced police brutality as a young man.
Plus, Ben's disappearance affected him pretty badly over the last few years.
He's been hiding that well since the start of the season.
Addison certainly wasn't the only one traumatized by that event, but to be frank, from a story point of view, it seems this major character flaw was only added here to give magic something more to do. And it really does feel out of character.
Addicts can be very good at hiding their addiction, though.
So does that mean the bottle Beth found had really been drunk by magic?
Based on how the story developed, I'd say it's very likely.
Damn, he totally fooled me.
Although I thought such a complex issue was dealt with way too easily. Magic admits his problem too readily to Ben, and it's like it comes out of the blue. But I guess that's what happens when you have to wrap up a story before the credits roll.
But why would they have to? This is an ongoing storyline. Like, they've already planted seeds of a major security breach, which will get resolved later, so why not draw this alcoholic theme more before it comes to a head?
Good point, and likely a reason why it felt artificially bolted on. As for the riots, I understand how difficult it would have been to portray the devastation on a TV show budget, and they therefore wisely focused on the store Ben and his family work at. But it didn't really work that well for me, especially when the store was being looted. Like, when the mob was trying to break through to the storage room where they were all hiding, and they almost broke the door down, only to stop?
Yeah, there didn't seem to be any good reason for the mob changing their mind.
Same with the father changing his mind about his kids by the end. Yes, he's distraught, and had it not been for the usual Ziggy breakdown of what will happen next, I was fully expecting him to change his mind again before long.
Kinda like his deeply ingrained racism evaporated just at the right time.
I think this is a story that would have benefited being stretched over 2 episodes to allow those multiple radical changes of heart to feel more earned.
I did like that moment when Ben spoke to his father in Korean, except his father's actual son doesn't speak Korean.
Yes, that was one of the few funny moments, but it didn't really work as we saw Ben speak Korean to him earlier in the episode. If that hadn't happened, that moment would have worked much better. I'm awarding One Night in Koreatown 2 paws.
We called it. Didn't we call it?
We sure did.
Hey, Fennec here, and it's always fun when an entertaining show also aims to educate about various aspects of history.
And what better way to do so than with a time-traveling show?
Exactly. We find ourselves in Princeton 1955. There's mystery, murder, secret rooms, hidden manuscripts, commies, Nazis, heartache, love and romance, all in 40 minutes.
And the show discusses Project Matterhorn, which actually existed and conducted research in nuclear fusion.
Back in 1955?
And there's more. There's a secret formula created by Einstein which allegedly made fusion possible.
Did it?
That's what the show's here to find out. All while Ben finally meets Tom,
Addison's new boyfriend.
Talk about putting a cat amongst the pigeons.
We meet Hannah again.
The waitress we met in the 3rd episode?
The very same.
Damn. What are the odds?
As high as her appearing again in another episode down the line, I'd wager.
With an inevitable blossoming romance.
Called it.
Awkward, though. Talk about potential problematic rebound.
It'll be interesting to see where it leads.
And then there's Operation Paperclip.
I'm surprised they treated that as something some of the characters had never heard before. I mean, those documents were released in the 1980s, and even the X-Files incorporated that into their mythology in the 90s.
My guess it's still not common knowledge. Doc?
Thank you, Commander. The most famous scientist that came from Nazi Germany to the USA was Werner von Braun, who spearheaded NASA's mission to the moon thanks to his experience designing V-1 and V-2 rockets.
Rockets which killed thousands of civilians during the war.
Talk about profiting off of war crimes.
Indeed. But other prominent Nazis ended up being very successful after World War II, their most prominent being Kurt Waldheim, who ended up being the Secretary General of the United Nations in the 70s, and Adolf Heusinger, who became chairman of NATO's military committee in the 60s.
Blimey. Remind me who lost the war again?
Exactly.
This Sleep had a well-written story, expertly combining historical events with fictional ones, while offering a new element to the Quantum Leap mythos, that of meeting the same regular person more than once. It was a lot of fun.
And Ben's back being affected by his host body's limitations, unlike, when he was a really strong 70-year-old woman.
It certainly was a welcome return to form.
What about the lab side of things?
Apart from Tom taking up holographic duties, leading to a good development between him and Ben, the primary story is Ian's security breach, which seems to have been resolved far too easily.
Yeah, I feel there's got to be more to it than that.
I hope so, because what we got here felt too easy and way too rushed, just when things were getting interesting. But apart from that, this was a solid episode, and I'm awarding Secret History 3.5 paws.
I forgot Ben could leap beyond his own lifetime.
That is indeed another change they've made to the original formula. Hey, Commander Fennec here, and Ben leaps to 1692, and you know what this undoubtedly means.
Witchcraft?
Witchcraft.
But to be fair, with a modern show trying to do a period piece, especially one so far back in time, it's just way too sanitized.
Well, you could argue Ben got into trouble by bringing modern knowledge to that time period.
And gets branded a witch for his troubles. But the language used was wrong. How overly generous men were to women having a say was wrong. It just didn't gel for me.
Not to mention Ian's newfound ridiculous seance and astrology obsession.
Yeah, maybe that was meant to be funny, but it just didn't work for me either. But there is one thing that was worth listening to. That a community can lift you up or tear you down just as easily. So it's down to what kind of a community that town, these people, and the audience wants to be.
I think that's a message worth hearing often.
It is, but I wish we had a better thought out story. Like take Jen stopping Ben's escape moments before he was due to leap to tell him someone got captured, and then she wonders why he didn't continue on his journey. I mean, she literally told him to stop and gave him info she knew he would feel compelled to act on. What kind of writing is that?
It's true, that was an odd moment.
Same with the conclusion, if you ask me. It's like they wrote themselves into a corner and then used pretty much magic to get out of it. Much too unsatisfying for my taste.
Oh well, guess they can't all be good episodes.
They could be, but not in this case. I'm awarding A Kind of Magic 1.5 paws.
You know the biggest draw for this episode?
Without a doubt, the Pyramids of Giza. Did they actually shoot there?
The internet says yes.
Hey, Commander Fennec here, and we've got ourselves a spy adventure in 1961 Cairo.
Not easy being a spy when you're a scientist.
It helps having an invisible hologram looking out for you.
Not only that, but our girl Hannah's back for an encore.
Bit of a stretch finding her in Egypt, though.
Bit of a stretch to find her anywhere at all, frankly.
Yeah, they're not really explaining how that works, are they?
There's really nothing to explain. They're all at the mercy of the quantum leap algorithm and the show's writers.
So, after a disappointing trip to the 17th century, how did this one fare?
To be fair, pretty good. The main focus is obviously on the reunion with Hannah, but the spycraft is engaging enough as well, and there's a heck of an unexpected turn in the middle which does make you wonder how this will end. There's a good amount of twist to keep your interest going, and the location shoots are definitely icing on the cake. I mean, who wouldn't love visiting Cairo?
It's most certainly a plus.
I did enjoy the fact that even though Ben has romantic notions of what a spy entails, he's constantly reminded how life-threatening his situation truly is.
That certainly gives us the stake and the tension, but there's also this Hannah mystery.
At its most basic level, it makes it pretty awkward for Addison, Ben, and Tom.
I told you monogamy isn't ideal for human monkeys.
And speaking of Addison, there's potential developments between her and Tom,
which could all change after a startling revelation.
Do you think it's the writers hedging their bets should the show not get a third season?
There's at least 5 more adventures after this one, so let's see where the ride takes us. In the meantime, this episode was a satisfying exploration of how it feels to be displaced in time with no one to physically be with. Well, we also see the effects of those forced to live their lives linearly.
Thankfully, there were no silly mumbo-jumbo in this story.
That's one of the major advantages of such a show. Every episode is pretty much a clean slate. I do like that they're not afraid to explore new things, even though some just don't work out, at least for us. But as far as I'm concerned, this one certainly did, and I'm awarding Nomads 3 paws. But tell me, what did you think of these episodes? Share your thoughts in the comments. Live long, and may the force be with you.